Hi guys, how's it going? Danny Fitzy here, and today I'm just going to be giving you an overview of a build I've been playing recently in the Heist League, which is a Deadeye or Wonder using Kinetic Blast for clear and using Power Siphon for single target with a barrage support. You can also just go full Power Siphon if you want for clear and barrage, but you just have to gem swap. So it just means like in the middle of a map when you are clearing, if you get like a big tanky red beast, you can't just barrage them down straight away and actually quickly gem swap, which is a bit more of a pain in the arse, and you probably end up getting killed while you're trying to do that. So in this case, we've got a clear skill and a single target skill. I like playing the game like that. It's one of it just reminds me of playing like a bow build. You know, having a barrage and then like your clear skill, it feels much more smoother. And it's just nice to having some more skills on your bar to actually press in certain situations. What you're seeing in the background is a 60% Delirious T15 burial chambers with fully sexted extra mobs because it's Delirium, so you want to get as much reward proc as possible. And I think that's about it. I think it's Awaken at level 7, so if I skip to the boss at the end, obviously the boss will have more health, so you'll see the kind of damage. But I believe on this map, with my current setup, I died a few times because in the next room you'll see in a minute, one of the Delirium bosses spawned in. I'm going to skip a little bit here because I went picking up loot because I didn't want to brick my map. And that is one thing I will say about the build, is that it is extremely squishy because it relies on evasion and dodge to basically for its defense. So you're just scaling damage. Obviously you can take a lot more life and a lot more damage. You can drop a lot of damage if you want, but my kind of setup at the moment, my way I want to build around this character is I want my barrage, my Power Siphon barrage. See, I just got one biff there by him. Is I want it to just like absolutely one shot conqueror or two shot, just go and then just it's dead. So I'm really focusing on damage and I'm just kind of half-assing the defense. So obviously if you put a bit more time into maybe min-maxing some of the defense, you could definitely get the evasion and the dodge much higher, so it's much more reliable than I have. And obviously I'll talk about that as I go through the gear. In terms of like the actual build, it's nothing unique. I'm not doing anything special here that I've come up with and that's, you know, revolutionary. If you've ever seen a Wonder, especially a Kinetic Blast / Power Siphon Wonder, and you know, and it's a Deadeye as well, you're going to see a lot of similarities because there's just some things you kind of have to do, unfortunately, when it comes to Kinetic Blast and Power Siphon, and any Wonder attacks really, even Kinetic Bolt. And I leveled up with Kinetic Bolt and it was actually really strong. It might be worth even swapping in for Kinetic Blast for a clear skill. It might just work better and hit harder as well, so you might be actually be able to kill rares when, you know, it's singled out. That's the problem with Kinetic Blast, it just does no single target whatsoever. But in a Legion type event, it is actually insane, the clear on it and the damage it puts out because of all the explosions. Look at that, exalt your pog. That's like Tensi right there. But yeah, and I think I die here. There's a mob here that ends up killing me. I clear most of the Legion pretty safely because dodge is carrying my ass. But I think there's a bunch of proxy shields around here, and one of the mobs with the proxy shield just had some deadly affixes. You can see you get biffed a lot. There's a lot of things going on here, like Wind Dancer and Immortal Call saving our ass from actually getting like 2-shot. But yeah, you can say 60% Delirious. I mean, if you min-max this build, you could probably do 100%. And obviously, if you just throw in a headhunter onto this build in this type of situation, it's going to carry you for a 100% Delirious as long as you don't stop and lose the ramp of all the mods you steal. And I'm actually buffed a little bit here. I've got a speed shrine and a crit shrine, but we're pretty much at 100% crit anyway. So the crit shrine's not too much; it's just a little bit more reliable. And what else? Yeah, there was a move speed shrine, so we were attacking a lot faster than we normally would. But honestly, that's probably just causing more lag and desync, to be honest. But we'll skip to the boss here, I think, because I think I pick up the loot because I didn't want to brick. I didn't want to brick my. There's nothing worse than having all the loot on the ground and then constantly dying over again and then bricking your thing. I think I died once here. Because the Burial Chambers boss does quite a lot of poison damage. She puts these poison things on the floor and you can't dodge them, like with dodge. I mean, you can move out of the way, but like dodge doesn't do anything against it. So you can see I stood on it there. Whenever my health just goes down really quick, it's because I'm stood on her thing. and obviously the delirium attacks as well. Yeah. You can see though, for a Deadeye, we're not getting one shot. There's a lot of chunk damage getting taken out of us. So with maybe some better gameplay, some more knowledge, and obviously maybe some more what's the word? Some more money in defense. It might be a little bit stronger. And there you go. I thought I got the poison bow, but I didn't. Feels bad. But yeah, you can see the damage once you get to stand there. It's insane. I do have a conqueror somewhere, but I don't remember where it was. I think it was a baron, and it wasn't like the 3-shot I was going for, to be honest. But let's just remove that right there. Open up our thing, and then we're just going to go over the gear. Any alterations you can make or changes you can make if you want to play it slightly different, and then obviously the floor is yours. The whole point of these overviews is more just to give you an idea of what I'm using, how it plays, and then you can make decisions on how you want to improve the build. You want more defense, you want more attack damage, you want more this move speed, you want more dodge, maybe a combination of everything, because you've got a better combination of maybe some uniques that give you all of those without no downside. And of course, people want to buy stuff while I'm making a video. I'm going to do it. That's how good I am at this game. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the gear, then the gem links, and then flasks, passive tree, ascendancy. I'm just going to break down what I'm using and what you could do differently, in a different scenario. So we'll do that. Now we won't do any other trades unless it's a big boy trade. Here's the MTX I'm using as well. I did have the Celestial set up with the other mystery box Nightfall one. I think it looked a little bit better, but this Shield MTX is pretty poggers. So I've got my spooky skeleton look. Money well spent. Right, so the gear. So the most recent upgrade I've got, and one of the most important things, is a really nice wand. Now this wand is unethical as hell. This is a 10x wand. I got a good deal to make this wand. This guy who previously had it was just slapping it with attack speed essences until he hit. That's all the mods you need there. That's all the mods you need. And this can still be slammed. I might even slam it at some point, because if that's only a T2 lightning damage roll as well, you can get T1 obviously, so it's even more LA damage. And there's also room for a prefix. In my case, I would want spell damage or flat one, cold damage. And what you'll learn about wand attacks is that you need to stack a lot of flat damage. So stuff like this, added lightning to attacks, both rings. We got some added lightning on our boots with a kind of half abyss dual stacking here, because you can get a lot of added flat damage there, and that's a lot of stuff you'll see with any wand attack build. It's just, unfortunately, is the way to scale the damage, the end game, to get that really insane damage and nice clear. But this pretty much is a solid wand. The one I was using previous that was doing just as good, to be honest. So you don't have to spend too much. I'm hoping I have it. It's in my cell tab, isn't it? Is this thing I just put up for 1x? I don't think it's worth 1x. This is a Crusader base. That means you've got more lightning. Like you've got the flat lightning with the lightning pen. And it just had T1 crit, T2 and a T4 lightning, which combined was about a T3, I would say. I think it's like a T3 lightning altogether with 7 lightning pen. And I crafted spell damage on. If you're wondering why I've got spell damage on, it's because I'm using Wand Slinger, and this is going to give you damage for spell damage because it also applies to your attacks. So it's essentially like getting attack damage, but it's its own modifier, obviously, because it's spell damage. So we don't have many sources of spell damage in the build. So other than I think here, so we got some from power charges. We've got some from this jewel, which I'll get to in a minute, which is a huge, massive source of spell damage. And I believe the only other spell damage then would have been on this wand, but obviously I've swapped because this thing gave me a 23% damage increase on PoB with a couple of boxes ticked on Cyrus. So it was insane damage increase. It went up to like 2 million Cyrus DPS, and that's only with power charges, tailwind, and the enemy being chilled and shocked, because they will be. So I didn't even factor in if you can keep your frenzies up during a boss fight. That gives you like another over, like, it's like 12% more damage plus the attack speed, so it's more than 12. It's insane. But yeah, the wand, if you want to craft your own wand, I would just either get a Crusader base or a normal wand, maybe a fractured wand that's already got like a very desirable stat on it, like this has, crit or like attack speed or something, and then either slam it with essences. You get like the I think it's like T1.5 or something, or T2.5 essence with the lightning damage on it. I don't know if I have any on me in here. Old damage, physical damage, lightning damage to spells. You want to make sure you don't want to get damage to spells because that doesn't do anything for you. Old damage. These ones. So you can go all the way up to I don't know if they're called the same thing, like deafening. I think it's a T. It might be even a T0. It might be considered a T0 roll. But you can also fossil craft with like metallics and not etheric, serrated. Sorry. I did a bunch of those on a wand and didn't really get anywhere. I had a half decent wand at one point, but I rolled over it. So here we are. I bought that wand. Very good deal. So you don't need to strive for that. Anything that matches this or above will carry you through the whole game. So have that as your baseline right there, and that should be fine. For your shield, I'm using a crafted one now, or a rare should I say, but I was for the longest time using this, and in a mapping situation like the map you were seeing before in Delirium, this would have given me more damage because it would have just stacked higher. Basically this gives you flat lightning damage per enemy you've killed recently if they've shocked. So each shocked enemy you've killed recently, sorry I've said that backwards, but same thing. And essentially recently on this game it's 4 seconds. So you can imagine how many mobs you can kill in 4 seconds when you pop a legion in a Delirium map. It's going to be over a couple hundred probably, and that's not even joking. But you can imagine the amount of ramp you can get in certain situations. So if something does spawn in, like a Delirium boss, or a beast, a red beast, red beast that's in an essence, those super tanky mobs you get every now and then, you could just absolutely run up to it real quick, give it one burst with barrage, and you'd probably one-shot it. So I'd actually recommend this if you're just purely mapping with absolute madness on the pack size and the monster density. But for general use and just a smoother gameplay, especially for like Conquerors and stuff where you don't have any ramp, this shield here, another massive source of spell damage as well, and it's tankier because it's got more life and it's got some dodge on it, some resist, help us flush out resist because we're using a fair few uniques here, so just a little bit easier to hit those caps. Skeleton dancing. So yeah, this is a pretty basic shield. I think I bought it for like 100C, 150C. I don't remember what the X price was at the time though, so it was probably worth a few X. It was probably worth like an X or two now. And you're basically looking for spell damage, life, and then any defensive modifiers. Obviously on an ES base, not ES, evasion rating base, because you want to stack some evasion rating. So if you can cushion that dodge with some evasion, that way the two layers kind of work together. Makes you feel invincible until you're not. That's the only problem with dodge. But also you can get a Shaper shield with the mana reservation modifier on it, so you can put your auras in here and reserve some more. Maybe find a way to squeeze in another aura, or even level your precision up further, which will give you more accuracy and more crit, and that means you can drop accuracy elsewhere. Helmet, which is pretty important. You want this enchant for your single target damage on your power siphon. This is probably one of your single biggest increases in damage you can get from a piece of single slot of gear, because it adds 2 projectiles, which is insane for your barrage. At this point, I think I'm firing 15 per power, 15, and that's 17 with Dying Sun up. So, yeah, this is an expensive enchant though on a good base. So even if you get it on a crappy base, just get it on a crappy base. Craft one yourself, slap it with some resistance essences or a couple of pristine fossils, whatever. Here, I don't even remember what I did with this one. I don't know if I ult spammed it. But you can see it's literally just got 2 decent resist rolls, and I've crafted life on it and the mid-socket minion. I have an ice golem, so it's given it +1, which is like not going to notice that in gameplay really, but it's there. So this could be a massive upgrade as well. I want a Warlords one preferably, and I might even hit this with the Warlord's Exalted Orb because you can get +1 power charge, and +1 power charge is a lot more damage because obviously Power Siphon scales off power charges. It has like crit and crit damage from that. Also, we've got spell damage per power charge. It gives you global increased crit anyway, but at this point that might be a little bit overkill for me, but even still, it's always nice to have mega 100% crit because then your barrage is just going to shred everything. Lovely, which is what we want. So yeah, recommend that. If you can't get that, obviously any juicy helmet. I guess they Star Conjures also for tankiness. If I have one sat around. I don't think so. Always enchant mine or corrupt them. But the Star Conjures, which is like an ES based, very popular item. It gives you like life, dex, and a lot of evasion, and evasion when you're on low life. So like you basically never get hit when you go low life. It'd obviously be really good for me right now, to be honest. But I'm not dropping two power siphons. I'd rather go glass cannon. Then our chests, we're using Shroud of the Lightness. Very, very common build thing here to combo this with some other Abyss items. Not only does it give us, some a lot of percent life because we've got a fair few Abyss Jewels, so we're a little bit more of a sponge, I suppose, for damage. But it gives you that 25 Ellie Pen, which against Cyrus, against Conquerors, it's the single most. It's probably this. I think it is the most damage increase you can get from one item. You go into like PvP and you sort by total DPS or combined DPS. This thing is always top because the Ellie Pen is just so good, especially against Conquerors and stuff. And obviously we have our main links in this. Our Power Siphon, which is our single target skill, which we need the most penetration on because that's the one that's supposed to be shredding bosses. And it also gives you like the little shade form, which is kind of cool. I believe this makes you immune to like physical damage or something, and makes it so you can't be hit. I don't exactly know what it does. All I know is it makes you kind of like almost immune to damage for a short period of time. It also has a decent amount of evasion on it. It's also only a 5 link because it has an Abyss Jewel on it, so that means it's a lot easier to link and colour, and it's a lot easier to get it corrupted and colour it still. So I literally bought this one with the wrong links, and I ended up colouring it myself. It obviously just costs Varlorbs. In this league, in Heist League, Varlorbs are worth absolutely nothing. I literally have 172 saved up, and I'm pretty casual at this game, to be honest. And that's just from running heists. And I Varlorb a lot of maps. I Varlorb a lot of items as well. Jewels, I just Varlorb jewels all the time. So you should be able to link this. And obviously, getting like an increased damage with like +2 projectiles would be your best double corrupt. But I just took what was ever cheapest at the time. It was some max life and some reduced chaos damage taken. It was literally just a case of that's better than the standard non-corrupted version because it gives you like 20 mana, which is useless basically. So yeah, Shroud of Lightness, stacking Abyss Jewels. I'll go over the Abyss Jewels right at the end, and that brings me on to the boot, I suppose, which is another Abyss item. This thing has a nice amount of move speed on it. It also removes corpses when you walk over them, which is the green footprints you kind of see. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the video, but there's a lot of like green mist coming off me. That will destroy corpses when you walk over them, so it kind of helps with not getting deaded and things of that nature, which is kind of nice. But the main thing we're using it for is the increased damage for each type of abyssal jewel affecting us. We have 4 currently, so that's 40% increased damage from a boot, which is not too shabby at all. Honestly, you could probably go elusive boots and save some points on the tree. And that way you'll have elusive up hot bosses as well, so it would be even, I would say it's probably better, but you'd have to craft some really nice crit elusive boots before I would say swap these out for that. And then your enchant, you probably want to be looking at the Ellie Pen if you haven't killed recently, so that comes up during bosses. Move speed if you haven't been hit recently, so you'd be a little bit faster through maps if that's your thing. Cold damage if you've been hit recently, I think it's that one, or fire damage. Those two, one of them's if you've been hit, one of them's if you've killed. Those two would be really good because they're flat damage. And the attack speed one if you've killed recently. Attack speed's really nice, but like I said, some of those won't be up against bosses, and that's really where the build you need to squeeze out more damage, because the clear from Kinetic Blast is just insane anyway, so you don't need too much to get that going. Speaking of Kinetic Blast, we'll move on to the Thunder Fist, which is probably in every any build that uses Kinetic Blast probably uses these, because you can get away with basically a pseudo 5-link on the Kinetic Blast and it will clear, as you saw, maps with ease. We only have +1 chain as well, so we're not even doing like any of the forking or the pierce memes to make it even more OP. Literally just relying on one chain. I did have a chain in here for the longest time, I think, instead of inspiration, but not only is inspiration just way more damage, I also needed the reduced mana cost, because I couldn't fire out like more than like 3 or 2 without hitting something before I ran out of mana, and it was really uncomfortable because you'd come up to a pack, accidentally have sprayed, you load somewhere else, you go to hit, you send out a basic attack, and it would just take too long to leech the mana back really quickly. So you just kind of get slapped straight in the face after that. So it's kind of awkward. And because these are such a common drop, you can get some really nice corruptions on them. I think the most important ones are probably base attack crit, which I have here, or Ellie weakness on hit. Curse Ellie weakness on hit. I had those at the start of this build, but I swapped it out for an Assassin's Mark, because Assassin's Mark is just way stronger, and the only time we really needed that extra damage was against bosses and rares and things, and Assassin's Mark gives you a fuck ton of damage against rares and bosses now, but I'll talk about that in a second. And why are these so good? Well, they have added lightning damage gem built into them, so you get level 18, which is not too shabby. You get a big... died, I think. I don't know if that came through on the mic. You get a shit ton of added attack damage and some attack speed, which is nice. The rest of the glove is pretty pointless. It barely gives... I mean, it gives 128 evasion, which is something, but, you know, you could be rocking like 400 evasion gloves if it wasn't for this slot taken up. So it's basically like a 4.8 link for your Kinetic Blast. Obviously, if you were to add one of these bad boys and awaken added lightning, honestly, it might outscale one of these gems. Maybe, potentially, depending on your setup. So you could just do a 4-link and go for some nice... I would say nice gloves are probably +1 frenzy gloves. Especially once you get some frenzy on hit, so you can keep up during bosses. Getting frenzy charges is going to be insane for you. Insane damage multiplier. I guess you could get Cull, but you don't actually... Scratch that, you don't need it. It's built into Power Siphon. Power Siphon's OP. I would just say, attack speed, mad attack speed. You could essence craft these and get the more attack speed with some other bits and bobs on them. Or if you could get Temple mod, which is the shocked enemies take increased 50% increased damage or whatever it is, with some life and evasion, would be really nice. But I just haven't really tried it yet, and I've just been stuck to these because at the end of the day, the added lightning and the attack speed still affects Power Siphon there. Not the gem, but just the 1 to 100 there. It does get added onto Power Siphon, so it is adding damage to Power Siphon as well. So, and the base crit, because they're corrupted. That's quite a lot of base crit, but a wand does have insane base crit. If you get a good crit roll, you can get almost 10% base crit on a wand. So it's not... We're probably over capped on crit at this point, so I could probably drop that quite easily, but it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So our belt is a Stygian Vise, obviously. We're stacking Abyss Jewels, no brainer there. Life resists and Ellie damage if you can get it. That's a crafted one, so that's really easy to get. You can also get like an influence one where you can get like Ellie damage. So you can get like a Crusader one with increased lightning damage. I think a Shaper one's increased elemental damage, which would be your best bet, but I think they're quite expensive to get. So, and then obviously anything else is gravy really. If you get like a Hunter one with increased % life or flash charge on crit, they just all kind of help. But that's a pretty my belt is probably the weakest thing in my gear right now. I could easily get a really nice belt. Could get like another 30 life. Could get a huge chunk of maybe strength or something for even more life. I could get a double Ellie roll. I could go triple res and then save a slot somewhere else. So this gear is by no means min-maxed at all. There's a lot of upgrade here, a lot of upgrade potential, and just take this as a baseline, like I said. Amulet. We are just going lightning damage to attacks, multi, life, whatever else you need. Probably attributes then at that point. We needed the strength, we needed some int, And then I was able to get this one, the fizz damage to attacks. It's barely doing anything. We're not scaling fizz, so it's irrelevant. But obviously the 4 stats there below that roll are really important. 12 fire res is like nothing, but if that's all you need to get your cap, then that's all you need to get your cap. But yeah, and then we're allocating prism weave. Yep. That's attack speed, LE damage, and LE pen. It's the strongest node on the whole tree for you in this kind of setup, on any setup like this. And then your next best bet is Divine Judgment, which is even cheaper, because that's Opalescence, and this is not. This is 1 black, teal, and sepia. Or is that clear? That's a sepia. But yeah, Divine Judgment, and then next after that, I would say it's probably this. Forces of Nature, which is LE pen and increased lightning, increased LE damage. This one's almost as good as this one up here, but this one just gives you a little bit more flat LE there, or not flat LE, increased LE, and some attack speed. So attack speed is very nice on this build. That means your power siphon barrage is even quicker. And every time I talk about power siphon, I keep doing this because that's the. So on your rings, you want accuracy. You probably want some accuracy somewhere. You can get that on your amulet if you want. Obviously resist if you need them. Then I was going life, lightning damage to attacks, and obviously accuracy for me. Obviously using 2 stone rings because it's just easier to cap the reses then. And then on the other ring, we want a shape of ring and we want Assassin's Mark. If you have LE weakness on hit somewhere, then you obviously can't use Assassin's Mark as well, because they'll override each other unless you find a way to kind of work around that. So the Assassin Mark only applies to rares, and you use a lower level LE weakness on everything else, but that just seems pointless because you're going to kill everything else anyway. But that's entirely up to you to do. Assassin's Mark's really strong on rares and uniques now because it doesn't get a reduced effect like it used to, because obviously it only applies to rares or uniques now, and obviously having it on a ring like this just means it applies automatically. So as soon as you go and hit a rare, or it gets clipped by your Kinetic Blast while you're clearing, it's going to be marked. And Assassin's Mark is still really strong like it used to be. It's more multi damage against it. Well, it's not. I don't believe it's crit damage does more damage to it anymore. It's you basically doing 40% more multiplier to it, and then it's base crit as well, 1.5 base crit, and it obviously gives you power charges on kill, but that doesn't really matter because we generate them anyway because we're power siphon, you know, and some other stuff in the build, and we've got it on kill and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, essentially it's just so like you're 100% critting and you're doing more damage with your crits. So that's what we're using it for. Like I said, LE weakness is a strong second, so you can get LE weakness if you find a nice LE weakness ring, and that will apply to everything. So that's always a nice benefit there, maybe. And obviously, lightning damage to attacks, life, resist. I mean, accuracy if you need it. Remember to cap your accuracy out because we are a crit attack build. Having 100% at least on this top line here is critical. You are really seriously cucking your damage if you don't have 100% crit. It's insane. And because barrage attack, this is not per arrow, it's per attack. So if you roll a miss, you're going to miss with the whole barrage and it's just going to feel terrible. So remember that. I think it's the same for crit as well. At least it felt like that when I was using cast on crit with a barrage or whatever on my other guy, which was a different build. But yeah. Have I forgot anything? No, that's all the gear. So the gem links we're using, then we've got cast knowledge taken, a mortal core, increased duration. A mortal core is just going to save you from getting 2-shot basically. And this in tandem with Wind Dancer, which I'll get onto in the tree in a sec, just makes you extremely tanky actually for like a few seconds after you've been hit. And then we got Ice Golem for accuracy and crit, and we got increased buff effect from the alternate quality version of it. We're using precision, only level 7 at the moment. Could probably get a few more levels in this, just to make sure that accuracy is even higher, especially against evasive mobs, and some more crit. Blood Rage for generating frenzy charges during mapping, and that way it's usually up during a boss in a map, but for Conquerors it's not. There are ways of getting around this, which I'll go over in a sec, which I'm trying to fit into the build right now, because I want frenzies up during boss fights because they're insane. Then we're using Vile Grace. This is purely for heist. On the way out, you're going to need to cap your dodge, otherwise you're just going to get biffed on the way out. It feels bad because you lose all your stuff. So you can use Vile Haste if you want to be a mad attack speed man and move speed. Then we got Dash, Second Wind, Arcane Surge level 1, so it procs every time we dash. Arcane Surge works for us because of Wand Slinger on the tree. So we're getting 10% more damage basically when we proc that. So when you're running around, you want to make sure you keep that up. And before a boss, you want to make sure you dash and then go at him for 10% more damage. Second wind's obviously a no-brainer. +1 cooldown, you get 2 dashes and it cooldowns quicker. We're using Wrath and Herald of Ice for our clear. We have just about enough cold damage at the moment to proc Herald of Ice pretty consistently, but if we got some flat cold damage on our wand, say, with our spare prefix, that would proc all the time, which would be a perfect scenario. And it's just extra clear, and it's MTX, I suppose. I love flexing them MTXs. And then for our clear, we're using Kinetic Blast. It's a 2120. 2020 will be exactly the same. A +1 on a attack skill, unfortunately, does like barely anything because it's like +1% of the base damage. So it's actually only like a couple percent damage, whereas like a spell, you know, it'd be a lot more important. But on attack, doesn't matter. That's why they're usually cheaper as well. Using greater multiple projectiles, obviously, so we can shoot out a lot more. I think we have 7 with our Dying Sun up and our Ascendancy. Inspiration, like I said, you can put Chain in here if you feel that works better and you've got so much damage that you don't need this as a multiplier. But with the reduced mana cost as well as the more multiplier, it just feels nicer to map with. And then obviously early damage with attack supports. Then our main link, we're using an alternate quality power Siphon, which has the additional projectile. I don't know how much quality you need for that to proc over. I assume it's 1%. It doesn't matter what percent this is, because the other alternate qualities are like ailments or some shit, so it doesn't really matter. And then the normal ones increase damage. I think the +1's better. It would be as well if you're using it for clear. You get +1 built in. So you can see that's just default power Siphon. It's so strong, and it also has increased crit and multi per power charge, and power charge generation on hits, so you keep them up during bosses, and built-in Culling Strike, and it always, I think it has a built-in of like 7 or 8 projectiles. It's nutty. This thing is nutty. So that's why we're using it for single target. But we're also using Inspiration. We're using Barrage Support to turn it into a single target skill. You swap this out for a Chain, or I don't know, an Ice Bite or a Hypothermia for a clear for more damage if you want. Then we're using Awaken Lightning damage support. I definitely recommend getting the Awaken version. It'll be a lot cheaper than all the other Awakening gems. And the level 1 version of this is just as good as like a level 30 or 31 lightning gem. So, and then obviously if you get up to 5 here, and I could Varl this at one point, because the +1 lightning doesn't really do anything for us, but I'm scared I'll brick it to level 4 and I will lose a lot of added damage, so I'm just leaving it for now. And then obviously early damage with attack supports. Our jewels, you want to stack anything that's just fire or no, not fire, anything that's lightning or cold damage to attacks or wand attacks, and then obviously life, multi, and if you need onslaught and phasing on any of them, get them. Let's see here, I have a phasing one with life and some wand attack damage. Here we have onslaught. That's purely an onslaught jewel. Once again, that is a massive upgrade to be had right there. We got multi double damage, and then we got double damage life, and they're all like not even T1s to be honest. There's a T1 multi there, but these jewels could be easily upgraded for a lot of damage. And then we're using Dying Sun for a +2 projectiles and area of effect affects our Kinetic Blast area. It's insane. Quicksilver, you know, move speed, crit. We're a crit build, so we're going to use Diamond Flask. And then Azura's Promise actually gives us insane amount of damage because we're stacking so much elemental damage. So, and it's some nice, what's the word? Defensive flask a little bit. So the tree, we are a Deadeye. So we're taking Tailwind, so we get like nice quick move speed, attack speed. We feel really rapid with this build. And we get obviously, this is on a boot, unfortunately, but you do get some increased effect if you're using your skills. So every now and then in a map, even though I have Blood Rage up, sometimes I press it again, so it keeps the Tailwind effect up. So obviously if we use all our shit, we're at like 15% Tailwind effect, so it's really nice, feels good. I took it first while leveling because it just gives you speed. It's insane. Then we got Fast Shot. We have to take Fast Shot to get the other 2 good ones, but this is not too bad. Fast Shot gives you more attack damage, which does scale our projectiles as they go off and clear screens beyond our screens, and projectile speed helps with that as well, and it makes it faster. It's nice. Then Ricochet, we got +1 chain on everything, so even our power Siphon can chain, so if there's 2 bosses, you actually can hit 2 of them at the same time and do pretty much the same damage. The only thing you miss if they're not single targeted is obviously the 10% more for each chain remaining. We only have 1 chain remaining because we're not using chain on any of this stuff. So yeah, just 10% more damage if it's literally a single target. And obviously this is the only chain we're using for Kinetic Blast, which just goes to show how strong it is on its own. You can go Pierce instead, but I feel like the chain's just so much easier, and it's insane. You have to aim as well, so. And then we're using endless yeah, whatever the word says. Bit of accuracy, huge flat area effect there, not flat, increased area effect, sorry, and a projectile. The area effect obviously affects our Kinetic Blast, that makes it do even more area because it splits. If you don't know, when this hits something, I'll show you. There's nothing here that's got a fucking hitbox. There you go. It will go out, it will hit, and then it will split into 4 little explosions in like a D-pad shape. Basically, anytime it chains, pierces, or forks, it will do that. So that's why normally you stack pierce. So every time it pierces, it goes and it just splits out. So 1 projectile will do a lot of explosions. Here we only have 1 chain, so you can just see, even with the 7 projectiles and 1 chain, so that's 14 projectiles essentially, all exploding into 4 little explosions or slightly bigger explosions. You can just see the clear it already does. The tree's pretty standard. I just realised I don't actually have Wind Dancer because I've been messing with my tree a little bit. This wasn't here before, but I found a good Hubris Circlet. As you can see, I'm 62k deeps there, 75k. This is basically just clipping these 2 here, and I'm getting 80 spell damage and 80 crit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, which I think is worth it. For some reason, I've dropped Wind Dancer, but I was taking Wind Dancer on the tree because it's very strong. That, in combination with your Immortal Coil, just makes it so when you do get hit eventually, you don't get 1 shot. And then you shouldn't get hit again, and if you do, you should take a lot less damage, right? So you essentially shouldn't get hit, and then once you've recovered from that, you should be fine to go. But clearly I've taken it out, and I don't know when I did that. But I mean, maybe once I level up, I can put that back in. I definitely had it, and I had this here as well. I had Heart of Oak before I did this memes here. What I'm trying to do here, by the way, is you can get 10% chance to get a Frenzy on hit as one of these notables that shows up. So if you don't know how these work, these basically is an area of effect. It changes all of these notables, but gives you nothing for the small notables. But there's one, see here, like 40 multi. You can get some really strong ones, and I'm putting it here because obviously I don't want to loot. If I put it like here, it's going to affect all of these ones, and you know I need +1 power, I need a lot of life, so it's just going to cuck me more than it's going to help me. So putting it here, it's out the way, and I can, you know, imagine if I got what I've got now and maybe like the frenzy one here for like 3 points, it'd be so worth. So the reason why we want frenzy on hit is because we want to keep it up during bosses, and then we can actually stack a couple of frenzies and have 4 or 5, and that is a massive multiplier for my current build. So that is the biggest damage increase I can get. This is a pretty standard tree. We're obviously taking point blank for more damage. You have to stand next to them though, but you don't always have to do this. Don't always feel like you have to stand next to the mob. It's not essential, but it does give you a lot of damage if you can. Then we're taking this pretty insane shield node here. It's got a lot of pen, a lot of ele damage, a lot of defense increases for your shield, which will only increase the evasion energy shield it gives you. It doesn't increase like the life, unfortunately, but and it gives you some all res as well up here. So I could probably drop this point, to be honest. Probably not, actually, quite low. Ele weakness would screw me. One thing to note is to take 1 point of attack damage leech, which is usually here. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get any mana back. That's all you need, though. Obviously, we're taking all the life and crit and the phase acro and the phase acrobatics because we're dodge. The Watcher's Eye is a damage penetration one for Wrath. Very cheap mod. If that's the only one you can get, that is your single biggest damage increase one for single target situations. There's obviously a lot of combinations you can get with Wrath and Precision, like multi-attack speed, increased global crit, Fizz as extra, or like Lightning as extra or whatever. You know, if you've got money to splash out, Watcher's Eye could be a big damage increase for you if you get like a double modded or a triple modded one. Then we're obviously going up here, taking all the standard crit and life nodes. There's nothing too special going on about this tree. We're actually taking elusive, some elusive on kill when we're mapping, some more dodge, more move speed. Taking the 2 frenzies that we go past, plus the spell damage one here. Don't miss out on this node. All these other ones are duration, but this one's actually spell damage per power. Very strong. And we're going up here, taking most of the wand node because it's all multi and crit multi and accuracy and attack speed. And this one gives you power charge on kill and power charge damage, which is really nice. So this one makes it so you can easily sustain it during a map without having to use power siphon at all. Obviously taking multi here, taking arcing blows because it's penetration. Penetration is extremely strong once you have enough damage. And obviously this jewel here, if you don't have this, you take these points and you put them back into, like, say, like life here. Maybe take this one, some move speed here. Maybe take some jewel sockets. Obviously Wind Dancer, I don't know why I've scuffed this up, but I recommend Wind Dancer. It does give you a lot less evasion base, but it's so good. When you do get hit, you just don't get one shot. You notice in those Delirium maps, I did not get one shot. It's always getting chunked. So obviously if I had a bit more evasion, a bit more dodge, you can imagine, like, I evaded a lot more of that stuff. I'd easily just get chunked, run around, kill stuff, get chunked again. You know, wouldn't ever get one shot in most situations. But yeah. And then obviously we're taking a power and life. We've allocated that. We're taking Wand Slinger, like I said earlier, because that means that spell damage applies to our wand attacks. And obviously we don't have too much access to spell damage anyway, based on the build. So that means when we do get it, it's like almost like a more multiplier in a sense. So I only have 1 massive spell damage there and 1 massive spell damage here. So 2 massive multipliers together is still pretty massive multiplier. And I can show you, like I said, when I take this jewel out, I lose 80 crit and 80 spell damage. You can see even my barrage power siphon goes from 22.5k to 27k. So it's insane damage. And like I said, if I was to be able to get the frenzy on hit on one of these and maybe a 40 multi, it could be worth dropping some more points elsewhere to fill this out. The reason, like I said, why I don't put these jewels here is because it screws with the power charges, unfortunately, and we need the power charges. You could put it down here maybe, but then it's going to brick point blank, and I don't think that's worth neither. And I don't recommend traveling over here because it's just not worth it. These nodes here are much stronger than the nodes down here, and there's like more than enough life that you would need on an evasion-based character up here. See, there's like 5 to be had here. There's another like 8% here, there's 8% here, there's another 8% here. So there's a lot of life you can grab. If you're feeling very squishy and you want more life and you just prefer having, like, say, over 5k life. Like I said, this is entirely optional. I literally added this last night, I think it was, and I was just divining them until I got something cool. I think this spot's really good because obviously this one here is 1 point once you've already committed to this dual socket. So if you get like 8 spell damage for 1 point right there, and then obviously another 2 points then to get 80 crit, I was like, hell yeah. And obviously the tooltip don't lie. You shouldn't always rely on the tooltip, but the tooltip doesn't always lie. And I think that's everything. I hope so. I wanted this video to be much shorter than my first version of it, but it's not. But what can I say? I like to give you the full explanation, you know, so you know what's going on. So I hope you enjoyed, and there's my trinket if you want to see it. It's just Jewelers of Divine Orbs. It's pretty crap. Oh no, Regal as Divine Orbs. It's pretty crap. So yeah, if you have any questions or queries, or maybe I didn't explain something, or maybe I overlooked something that I'm not thinking about now, I think I went over everything, then leave a comment down below and I'll try to respond. And if this build changes a lot and I like end up swapping out these boots and the gloves and doing some wacky shit, I'll make an update video version of it. But yeah, like I said before, not my build. This is a pretty standard build. I just wanted to go do an overview for it. It helps for like my Twitch as well. So if someone asks about the build and they're asking a lot of questions, it's just like, hey, watch this video. You know, it's going to have everything you need in it. So it's nice for that. That's normally why I do them. So it's like a command in my Twitch thing. Which reminds me, follow me on Twitch if you want to see this build live in action, farming some mad exalt orbs. And that's it. That's it, guys. If you're still here, thanks for watching. If you watched the whole video, you're a fucking legend. And, you know, hit the like if you liked it and it was helpful. If not, then it's okay, brother. You don't have to like everything. And I will see you later. Stay frosty, boys. Peace out.